Blind people of Reddit who have done acid, what did you see? I'm legally blind, color blind, photosensitive, and I have nystagmus. I've done shrooms and everything turned neon orange and purple for a bit one time. I can say that doing shrooms definitely helps me see color more, which is nice, since everything seems very muted for me most of the time, but probably not the colors I should be seeing. Salvia was a fucking nightmare, but not because of the visuals. The visuals were awesome. Childhood kaleidoscope toys IRL anyone. But no one ever told me I shouldn't try to move while under the influence of salvia. Good thing you can't really move, or I'm pretty sure I would have broken something flip-flopping around trying to figure out why I couldn't really move or stand up. I was legit scared the first time because I thought I had seriously fucked myself up. Also, that shit smells horrible. I never knew a plant could smell so much like rotten garbage in feet. FYI, most blind people can still see. Truly blind people are super duper rare, and it's usually not something that is had since birth. All of my conditions have been there since birth. I have no idea what normal vision is like. Not related to the acid part of the topic, but similar. One of my friends has an older brother who was born blind. I was hanging out at their house one night and I asked him what it was like for him to have dreams. Well, he certainly never has any visual dreams. They are all touch and sound. He also said they are really strange and out in the left field. The way he said it kind of spooked me. I could only imagine. I'm not blind, but I'm red-green color blind. Can't see some colors made with red and green, which is like most of them. And one time I was playing with red and blue LED Christmas lights, and I put the colors close together on a wall, and they mixed to make purple, and I could actually see purple. That was the first and only time in my life I've ever seen purple, and been able to mentally distinguish it as purple. It was kinda breathtaking if I'm honest. Another time, on acid again, haha, I was explaining color blindness to another friend on acid, and I pointed to some rope, and said something about it being blue. It was pink, another color I have a hard time seeing. Then when he pointed out it's actually pink, we laughed, and then when I looked again my brain had like learned that it was pink, so I saw pink. It was wild. I feel like I could only experience those colors because I'm able to kind of imagine them, and since out existence is just a hallucination based on guesses and previous knowledge of our environment, I believe that is why under the powerful influence of psychedelics I was able to see those colors in my deluded state. I dropped acid back in high school. I had a good trip, too good in fact. It's hard to describe, but it was like my brain was made of molten lava racing down bobsled trails. Thoughts were fire. I could understand problems all at once. They weren't even problems long enough to be interesting. The fire spread to my bloodstream, and I could feel my heart pumping lava throughout my body. I kept trying to find things to think about, and as I understood them, it was like explosions going off throughout my brain and body. It was an incredible feeling. I tried a bunch of drugs during that period of my life. Mostly, it was an experiment to see what they were like. LSD was the only one that scared me to death. I could easily become addicted to it. I never tried it again. I once went blind while on acid. Not sure how long it actually was, but felt like an hour. All was fine after I figured out how to open my eyes again. Edit, this was the second day into a trip, so was probably my body trying to sleep. In 2014 I became blind in my left eye almost completely. When I took mushrooms recently in 2019, I discovered I could still trip out of the eye. I still see colors and intense visuals. This was pretty shocking. In fact, it made me cry a bunch the first few times I tripped, because I for a long time felt like my eye was dead and or useless. Not blind in the slightest. but I hallucinate through my sense of touch more than any other sense. Acid, really good weed, doesn't matter the substance, textures, weight, the viscosity of the air, etc. All of it changes and or can be messed with while I'm on acid. If I shift my weight from foot to foot enough, the whole room feels like it's on a ship in the middle of a stormy sea. If I'm hot and I touch hairy skin, it feels like a mix of manure, organs and vomit. The ground becomes marshmallow textured. The air feels physically thick when passing my hand through it. I don't see things, I don't hear things, even with high doses, but my sense of touch is so out of whack it's basically hallucination. It freaked me out the first time, but when I realized it's how I hallucinate, I've had fun with it in the times I've tripped since. I'm not blind in the sense that I see nothing, but I'm severely visually impaired, uncorrected by lenses, and have been since birth. My experience of hallucinogenic drugs has been varied. Most interestingly was an experience that felt to me I've no real concept of good sight, like I had clarity for the first time, the fog lifted, and colors were bright. Separate to this, I have experienced a number of auditory and sensational hallucinations. Music brings sighted and blind together, and I think is the most powerful driver of shared hallucinogenic experiences. Anyway, stay wavy. Depends on the dosage. Lot of closed-eyed visuals. Things will be geometric and wavy. Colors and sounds are much louder. You don't really see stuff that isn't there with acid. Ayahuasca, DMT and salvia for some real visuals. I may not be the kind of blind you're asking for, but I'm terribly short-sighted. I see fuzzy, but I can still see without my glasses. A few weeks ago I smoked some weed, and was on the highest trip I've even been on, and while not wearing glasses, I momentarily saw everything as clear as day. I got so excited about answering, until I realized you meant literally blind people. Great question, and I think I might know a little without even looking at the comments first. When I close my eyes, while listening to music, while peeking this like multicolored insanely structured thing that kind of resembles a plant in its movement, continues to like grow and evolve, until I open my eyes again. I can't explain it, but I've always felt like it's tapping into a higher dimension or something, but at a very low level. I've seen King Kong, giant spiders and so many other things when my buddy and I would go on adventures at night through the woods with sticks we thought were swords, but I don't think blind people see anything like that. I've only done acid like 6 times, and every time I came out the other side so much smarter. As a blind person with type 5 blindness, I actually don't see anything, but I sure do feel weird sensations of my skin moving, and hear weird sounds. One time my caregiver had dosed me with acid telling me it was aspirin for my headache, and I knew something was wrong when I would hear things I knew wasn't there. It's horrible that someone would take advantage of someone blind to slip them drugs, but I guess it's the state of the world. The messed up part is that they told me they fired the caregiver who dosed me, but I have no way to being sure he's still licensed around, since I only rely on people's voices, but he can very well be watching me in a crowd and not saying anything. I constantly fear for my life now. But yeah, the trip was fun once I knew it wasn't a lethal dose. I've never taken LSD, but I have taken different quantities of mushrooms, and the general vibe, even on the higher end, no pun intended, was feelings of peaceful vibration. I also felt a very narrow focus on whatever I was looking at that would kind of pulse and warble. Though if I tried to look directly at those anomalies, they'd stop whatever they were doing in my immediate peripheral. I absolutely began to think quite differently about the frailty of my life and of the human timeline. It's kind of made me nihilistic in my more depressed days, but anyway. I can't really recall if I had that state of mind before or after the bigger dosages, but even after 16 plus years I remember so many small details about those exact days and the hours I was influenced. Very valuable times nonetheless. My question is, do people lie about their trip experiences? And if so, why?